Hey there, Mafia enthusiasts! Today we're delving into the shadowy world of organized crime, specifically shining a light on one of the notorious 5 families of the American Mafia, the Genovese crime family. In this episode, we'll be uncovering the intriguing and often mysterious fates of the members who once wielded power and influence within the Genovese Empire. From their rise to notoriety to where they are now, we've got the inside scoop on these elusive figures. So grab a seat, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive deep into the lives of the members of the Genovese crime family. Where are they now? Current family members. Administration. Boss, Liborio Barney Bellomo, born on January 8, 1957, has a significant history within the Genovese crime family. Initiated in 1977, he served in the 116th Street crew of Severio, Sammy Black Santora. Bellomo's father had connections to Anthony Fat Tony Salerno. In 1990, he was identified as the acting boss after Vincent Gigante's indictment in the Windows case. Bellomo faced charges in June 1996 related to extortion, labor racketeering, and allegedly ordering the deaths of Ralph DeSimone in 1991 and Antonio Di Lorenzo in 1988. Around 2016, he was recognized as the likely official boss of the Genovese family. Street boss Michael Mickey Ragusa, born on June 22, 1965, is a former soldier in Liborio Barney Bellomo's Harlem Bronx crew. In January 2002, Ragusa faced an indictment along with acting boss Ernest Muscarella, capo Charles Tuzo, members Liborio Bellomo, Thomas Cafaro, Pasquale Falcetti, and associate Andrew Gigante. The charges were related to the infiltration of the International Longshoremen's Association. Underboss Ernest Ernie Muscarella is a former acting boss and former capo of the 116th Street crew. In January 2002, Muscarella, while serving as the acting boss of the family, was indicted along with capo Charles Tuzo, members Liborio Bellomo, Thomas Cafaro, Pasquale Falcetti, Michael Ragusa, and associate Andrew Gigante. The charges were related to the infiltration of the International Longshoremen's Association. On January 11, 2008, Muscarella was released from prison. On April 16, 2019, he was identified as the underboss of the Genovese family during a lawfully recorded conversation between Gambino family soldier Vincent Fiore and Gambino family associate Mark Cocage. Consigliere Pasquale Patsy Perello, born in 1945, is a longtime capo operating in the Bronx and owns Pasquale's Rigoletto restaurant on Arthur Avenue. In 2004, he was found guilty of loan sharking and embezzlement, sentenced to 88 months, and released on April 23, 2008. In August 2016, Perello was indicted on gambling and extortion charges. He pled guilty in May 2017, receiving a 7-year sentence, and was released on January 19, 2022. Cap regimes, the Bronx faction. Ralph the Undertaker Balsamo. Ralph Balsamo, known as the Undertaker, is a capo with operations in the Bronx, Manhattan, and Westchester. His nickname comes from owning funeral homes in the Bronx. In 2007, he pled guilty to narcotics trafficking, firearms trafficking, extortion, and union-related fraud, receiving a 97-month prison sentence. Released on March 8, 2013, Balsamo was indicted in August 2016 with 45 others. After being detained until trial, he was released from prison on July 23, 2018. Arrested again on April 12, 2022 on racketeering charges, Balsamo pled guilty to racketeering on February 9, 2023. Nicholas Calisi. Nicholas Calisi, a capo of a Bronx crew operating in Florida, was indicted on April 26, 2022, along with 5 co-defendants. The charges involved operating a criminal racketeering enterprise focused on illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011. Calisi, among others, pled guilty to racketeering on February 8, 2023. On June 27, 2023, Calisi was sentenced to serve 24 months in prison. Pascal Uncle Patty Falsetti, Pasquale Patsy Falsetti, a capo of the 116th Street crew operating in the Bronx and Manhattan, was sentenced to 30 months in prison for loan sharking in September 2014. Former Genovese family associate Anthony Zoccalillo testified against Falsetti during the trial, claiming Falsetti provided him with a $34,000 loan for a marijuana trafficking operation. Falsetti was released from prison on January 13, 2017. On July 10, 2017, he was observed meeting with Gambino crime family capo Andrew Campos in the Pelham Bay Diner. Daniel Danny Pagano, a capo with operations in the Bronx, Westchester, Rockland, and New Jersey, was involved in a bootleg gasoline scheme with Russian mobsters during the 1980s. After serving 105 months in prison, Pagano was released in 2007. He faced sentencing again on July 10, 2015, receiving 27 months in prison on racketeering conspiracy charges. Pagano was released from prison on August 29, 2017. Manhattan faction. Johnny Hollywood Brescio, Anthony Brescio, a capo operating in Manhattan, owns Lombardi's, a pizzeria in Manhattan that he runs with his stepson, Michael Giammarino. In 2017, Brescio was identified as a capo in the Genovese family during the investigation of Angelo Ruggiero's ALJ waterfront application. Anthony Romanello, acting capo of the Brescio crew operating in Manhattan and Queens, was indicted on August 16, 2022, along with several others. The charges included racketeering, money laundering, illegal gambling, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and other offenses. Authorities allege the group used front businesses in Queens and Long Island to launder illegal profits. In a wiretapped conversation from October 2019, Romanello was caught, saying he was going to put a debtor under the F, King Bridge. Romanello was released on $1.1 million bond. Conrad Ianiello, a capo operating in various locations including Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, Springfield, and Florida, faced legal troubles. On April 18, 2012, he was indicted along with members of his crew on charges of illegal gambling and conspiracy. The conspiracy charge traced back to 2008, when Ianiello, along with others, attempted to extort vendors at the annual Feast of San Gennaro in Little Italy. In August 2016, he was indicted again, this time along with other mobsters on gambling and extortion charges. Thomas Figgy Ficarota, Vincent Ficarota, a capo operating in Manhattan and Brooklyn, has a history of legal troubles. In 1983, he was indicted for operating a national burglary ring, where the charges mentioned his affiliation with the Genovese family and tribute payments to Genovese member Thomas Greco. Ficarota served 5 years in prison in 1985 for extortion and in 1986 was convicted of RICO offenses involving Local 814. In 1995, his son Tom Ficarota was implicated in the Hovitt Center Carpenters racketeering investigation. Brooklyn. Barry Joseph Nichols Nishilo, Bartolomeo Vernash, also known as Bartolomeo Nicola, is a capo operating from Brooklyn. He initially worked as an associate to Genovese family capo Salvatore Sally Dogs Lombardi. In July 1992, Vernassi was indicted for conspiring to murder the De Cavalcante family's acting boss, Gaetano Corky Vastola, along with De Cavalcante crime family soldier Virgil Alessi, boss John Riggi, and underboss John D'Amato. In 1993, Vernash, Alessi, and Riggi pleaded guilty to the murder plot. Vernash was released from prison on November 3, 2000. Queens faction. Anthony Roman L. Anthony Romanello serves as the capo of the Queens-based Federici crew, operating from Corona Avenue in Corona, Queens. In January 2012, he pleaded guilty to illegal gambling. On May 3, 2022, Romanello, along with soldier Joseph Celso and family associate Luan Bexetti, was indicted for extorting the owner of a Brooklyn Italian restaurant. Romanello pleaded not guilty and was released on bail. Westchester faction. Salvatore Gigante, Mario Mary Gigante, serves as the capo of the Westchester Gigante crew and is the son of former capo Mario the Shadow Gigante. In June 1996, Gigante, along with his father Mario and 5 others, faced charges related to using violence to maintain control of garbage collection businesses across various locations. He was released from prison on July 2, 1999. New Jersey faction. Silvio P. DeVita, Sicilian-born capo DeVita, operates in Essex County, particularly in Newark. Despite prior convictions, including first-degree murder and robbery, DeVita's current level of activity in day-to-day operations is uncertain given his age in his 90s. Additionally, he has been prohibited from visiting any casino in New Jersey. Soldiers. New York. Elio Chinatown Albanese. In November 2022, soldier Elio Albanese was charged along with soldier Carmine Russo for their involvement in a scheme that included obtaining oxycodone pills from a Midtown Manhattan doctor and having associates sell the oxycodone on Staten Island. Vito Alberti. On October 21, 2014, soldier Michael Ragusa was indicted along with Captain Charles Chucky Tuzzo in New Jersey on charges of loan sharking, gambling, and money laundering charges. Anthony Tico Antico, a former capo, was involved in labor and construction racketeering in Brooklyn and Manhattan. In 2005, Antico, along with capos John Barbato and Lawrence Dentico, was convicted of extortion charges. He was released from prison in 2007. On March 6, 2010, Antico was charged with racketeering in connection with the 2008 robbery and murder of Staten Island jeweler Louis Antonelli. Although acquitted of murder charges, he was found guilty of racketeering. Antico was released from prison on June 12, 2018. Liborio T. Benny Bellomo is a reputed Maid member and the first cousin of the Genovese family boss, Liborio Barney Bellomo. John Johnny Sausage Barbato is a former capo and the former driver of Venero Mangano. He was involved in labor and construction racketeering with capos from the Brooklyn faction. Barbato was imprisoned in 2005 on racketeering and extortion charges and released in 2008. John Campanella is a family soldier. On April 26, 2022, he and 5 other co-defendants, including capos Ralph Balsamo and Nicholas Calisi, soldier Michael Messina, and associates Michael Poli and Thomas Poli, were indicted for operating a criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011. Campanella pled guilty to racketeering on February 8, 2023, and on June 27, 2023, he was sentenced to 13 months in prison. His father, also named John, is an associate or member of the family as well. Joseph Chelso, a family soldier, was indicted on May 3, 2022, along with capo Anthony Romanello and associate Luan Bexetti. They were charged with extorting the owner of a Brooklyn Italian restaurant. Celso was formally acquitted of murdering a 19-year-old man in 1993. Christopher Jerry Cerchio, an alleged soldier, was indicted in April 2020 for his involvement in a scheme to scam lottery winners through fraudulent investments. On January 18, 2023, he was indicted again, this time along with Gambino family members for a kickback scheme allegedly operated by Robert Rusty Basilis. The indictment claimed that in 2019, Cerchio, using his position as an executive of RCI PLBG Inc., worked with Basilis to steal over $300,000 from other developers. Carmine Little Carm Della Cava, a family soldier, was involved in a stock fraud scheme in the 1990s, serving prison time and being released in 1994. In the late 2000s, Della Cava was also involved in a lawsuit related to his company, Cava Construction, where workers fought for fair wages. Joseph Joe D. Denti Jr., a former capo operating in the Bronx in New Jersey, has a family history connected to the mob. His father, Joseph Denti Sr., was a Bronx loan shark during the 1970s before moving to Beverly Hills in the early 1990s. In 1996, Denti Sr. passed away, and his funeral was attended by notable Hollywood figures. In 2000, Denti Jr. and Chris Senatempo became suspects in a police investigation linked to the accomplice of a man involved in home robberies in the Hamptons. On December 5, 2001, Denti Jr. was indicted on racketeering charges along with Capo Rosario Gangi, Capo Pasquale Parello, and others. After being released from federal prison on April 29, 2009, Denti Jr. faced charges in 2016 related to defrauding investors in medical ventures. Lawrence Little Larry Dentico, a former capo operating in South Jersey and Philadelphia, served as consigliere in the late 1990s through the 2000s. Dentico faced imprisonment on charges of extortion, loan sharking, and racketeering. He was released from prison on May 12, 2009. Louis DiNapoli is a soldier associated with his brother, Vincent DiNapoli's 116th Street crew. Albert Kid Blast Gallo, a former capo, operated in Brooklyn neighborhoods like Carroll Gardens, Red Hook, Cobble Hill, and parts of Staten Island. In the mid-1970s, Gallo, along with Frank Iliano, transferred from the Gallo crew of the Colombo crime family to the Genovese family. Notably, Gallo's co-capo, Iliano, passed away in 2014. Rosario Ross Gangi is a former capo who operated in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and New Jersey. He was involved in extortion activities at Fulton Fish Market. Gangi was released from prison on August 8, 2008. Little John Giglio, also known as Johnny Bull, is a soldier involved in loan sharking. Andrew Gigante, son of former boss Vincent Gigante, was indicted in 2002 on extortion charges. Danny the Lion Leo, a former acting boss and member of the Purple Gang of East Harlem in the 1970s, joined Vincent Gigante's circle of trusted capos in the late 1990s. After Gigante's death in 2005, Leo became acting boss. In 2008, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison on loan sharking and extortion charges. In March 2010, Leo received an additional 18 months in prison on racketeering charges and was fined $1.3 million. He was released on January 25, 2013. Alan Baldy Longo, a former capo of a Brooklyn crew, previously under Ali Shades Malangone, was involved in stock fraud and white-collar crimes. On April 25, 2001, he was indicted on racketeering charges along with Colombo acting boss Alphonse Persico, based on the work of undercover informant Michael Durso. Longo was convicted and sentenced to 11 years, released on November 24, 2010. Joseph Joe Fish Macario, a soldier, was indicted on August 16, 2002, along with several members of the Genovese and Bonanno families, including Genovese acting capo Carmelo Polito and Bonanno capo Anthony Pipitone. Alphonse Ali Shades Malangone, a former capo, operated in Manhattan and Brooklyn during the 1990s. He controlled gambling, loan sharking, waterfront rackets, and extorted the Fulton Fish Market. Malangone, arrested in 2000 along with several Genovese and Gambino family members, was involved in activities related to the private waste industry. James Jimmy from 8th Street Massera, a former capo of the Little Italy crew operating in Manhattan and Brooklyn, was involved in extorting the Mason Tenders Union in the 1990s. He faced imprisonment on racketeering charges and was released on December 12, 1995. Michael Messina, a family soldier, was indicted on April 26, 2022, along with 5 other co-defendants. This included capos Ralph Balsamo and Nicholas Calisi, soldier John Campanella, and associates Michael Poli and Thomas Poli. They were charged with operating a criminal racketeering enterprise involving illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011. Messina pled guilty to racketeering on February 9, 2023. Joseph Olivieri, a soldier operating in the 116th Street crew under Capo Louis Moscatiello, has been involved in extorting carpenters' unions and is connected to labor racketeer Vincent Di Napoli. He was convicted of perjury and released from Philadelphia CCM on January 13, 2011. Eugene Rooster Onofrio, a mobster from East Haven, Connecticut, served as the acting capo of the Mulberry Street crew in Manhattan's Little Italy and acting capo of the Springfield, Massachusetts crew. In 2016, Onofrio was indicted along with Genovese Family capos Pasquale Parello and Conrad Ianiello, Philadelphia Family boss Joseph Merlino, Springfield gangsters Ralph Santaniello and Francesco de Pergola, and 40 other mobsters on gambling and extortion charges. Carmine Baby Carmine Russo, a soldier, was charged in November 2022, along with soldier Elio Albanese, for their involvement in a scheme that included obtaining oxycodone pills from a Midtown Manhattan doctor and having their associates sell the oxycodone on Staten Island. Charles Salzano, a soldier, was released from prison in 2009 after serving 37 months on loan sharking charges. Michael Hippie Zanfordino, also a soldier possibly with the Bronx faction, reportedly close to Liborio Bellomo, was released from prison on May 6, 2016, after pleading guilty to counts of racketeering, extortion, and the attempted murder of 2 gangland figures. New Jersey. Michael Mikey Cigars Coppola, a former capo of the Fiumara Coppola crew, is currently imprisoned. Despite being incarcerated, he is still regarded by law enforcement and experts as a leading captain in the New Jersey faction. Coppola is serving time at the United States Penitentiary Atlanta for 2 counts of racketeering, with a projected release date of March 4, 2024. Stephen DePiro, a former acting capo of the Fiumara Coppola crew, was responsible for overseeing illegal operations in the New Jersey Newark Elizabeth seaport. In 2017, DePiro was identified as a soldier in the Genovese family during the investigation of Mark Caruso Jr.'s ALJ waterfront application. Anthony Tony D. Palumbo, a former acting capo in the New Jersey faction, was promoted acting boss by close ally Daniel Leo. In 2009, Palumbo faced charges of racketeering and murder alongside Daniel Leo and others. He pled guilty to conspiracy murder charges in August 2010, receiving a 10-year prison sentence and being released on November 22, 2019. Associates. Frankie Ariana Di Mattina, an associate, was convicted on January 6, 2014 for extortion and a firearms charge. He received a 6-year prison sentence. Michael Poley, a family associate, was involved in a criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion. On April 26, 2022, he and 5 other co-defendants, including Capos Ralph Balsamo and Nicholas Calisi, pleaded guilty to racketeering on February 8, 2023. Thomas Poley, a family associate, was involved in a criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion. On April 26, 2022, he and 5 other co-defendants, including Capos Ralph Balsamo and Nicholas Calisi, were indicted. Poley later pleaded guilty to racketeering on September 29, 2022. Other territories. The Genovese family is known for operating primarily in the New York City area, with their main criminal activities centered around illegal gambling and labor racketeering. These activities have been significant sources of revenue and influence for the family over the years. The Genovese family has a wide-ranging presence in the New York City area, operating in all 5 boroughs, as well as extending its influence into the suburbs. Their control over various businesses, particularly in construction, trucking, and waste hauling, provides a significant source of income. Additionally, the family is involved in various illegal activities such as gambling, loan sharking, extortion, and insurance rackets. It's interesting to note their historical involvement in areas traditionally controlled by other crime families or factions. The Genovese family's involvement in trucking and waste hauling rackets extends into Connecticut, particularly in New Haven. The legal actions against Genovese acting boss, Matthew "Matty the Horse" Ianiello, in 2006 highlight their engagement in trash, hauling rackets not only in Connecticut, but also in Westchester County, New York. The historical indictment of Gustav Gus Curcio in 1981 for the murder of a Gambino crime family member adds to the complex web of criminal activities associated with the family. Springfield, Massachusetts has indeed been a significant territory for the Genovese family, with influential leaders such as Salvatore Big Nose Sam Curfari, Francesco Frankie Skyball, Sibeli, Adolfo Big Al Bruno, and Anthony Aralotta. Worcester, Massachusetts also had notable capos like Frank Iaconi and Carlo Mastro Totaro. In Boston, although the North End was historically dominated by the Patriarcha crime family, there has been an alignment with the Genovese family since the Prohibition era. Notably, the cooperation of Genovese mobsters Anthony Aralotta and Felix El Tranghese in 2010 marked a significant event, making them only the fourth and fifth Genovese made men to cooperate with law enforcement. Their cooperation aided in the prosecution of Capo Arthur Artie Nigro and associates for the murder of Adolfo Big Al Bruno. The Genovese family maintains its presence in South Florida, extending its organized crime activities to that region. Family Crews. The 116th Street Crew, led by Pasquale Uncle Patty Falchetti, operates in the East Bronx as part of the Genovese crime family. The Greenwich Village Crew, formerly associated with Vincent Gigante, operates in Greenwich Village in Lower Manhattan as part of the Genovese crime family. The Broadway Mob operated in Manhattan as part of the Genovese crime family. The Genovese crime family New Jersey faction operates in the state of New Jersey as part of the larger Genovese crime family. Former members: Dominic Fat Dom Alonghi, a former member of Vincent Gigante's Greenwich Village crew, was associated with the Genovese crime family. Salvatore Sammy Meatballs Aparo, a former acting capo, was involved in a racketeering case in 2000 where he, his son Vincent, and Genovese associate Michael Durso met with Abraham Ryder. Aparo was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison in October 2002, but was released on May 25, 2006. He passed away on May 12, 2017, at the age of 87. Giovanni Johnny Futo Biello, a former capo active in the Miami area, ran the Peppermint Lounge during the 1960s for Matthew Ianiello. He was a friend to Joseph Bonanno and claimed to be close to John Roselli of the Chicago outfit. Biello was involved in a 1962 plot to murder New York crime family bosses Lucchese and Gambino, but the plan was revealed. Biello was later murdered on March 17, 1967, by future Genovese capo George Barone, possibly ordered by Bonanno or Anthony Salerno and Matthew Ianiello. His son-in-law released a book about Biello's life in 2012, named The Peppermint Twist. Michael A. Tona Borelli, a New Jersey mobster and former acting co-capo of Tino Fiumara's crew along with Lawrence Ricci, controlled construction and illegal gambling rackets in NJ. He formerly oversaw the family's activities in the Teamsters. Borelli passed away on March 21, 2020. Ludwig Nini Bruschi, a former capo operating in South Jersey counties of Ocean, Monmouth, Middlesex, and North Jersey counties of Hudson, Essex, Passaic, and Union, was indicted in June 2003 and paroled in April 2010. Bruschi passed away on April 19, 2020. Dominic Quiet Dom Cirillo, a former capo and trusted aide to boss Vincent Gigante, was part of the West Side crew and known as one of the Four Doms. Cirillo served as acting boss from 1997 to 1998, later resigning due to health problems. In 2003, Cirillo became acting boss again, resigning in 2006 due to imprisonment on loan sharking charges. Released in August 2008, he subsequently served as family consigliere until his death on January 14, 2024. Vincent Vini Di Napoli, a soldier and former capo with the 116th Street crew, was deeply involved in labor racketeering. He reportedly earned millions through extortion, bid rigging, and loan sharking rackets. DiNapoli wielded influence over the NYC District Council of Carpenters, utilizing it for extorting other contractors in New York. His brother, Joseph DiNapoli, served as the former consigliere of the Lucchese crime family. Dominic "Dom the Sailor" de Quarto was a former member of Vincent Gigante's Greenwich Village crew. Giuseppe Fanaro was a member of the Morello family and was involved in the barrel murder of 1903. In November 1913, he was murdered by members of the Lamonte and Alfred Mineo's gangs. Anthony "Tough Tony" Federici was a former capo of the Queen's crew and later served as the family's consigliere. He was honored for community service in 2004 and passed away on November 9, 2022. Federico "Fritzi" Giovanelli, a soldier heavily involved in loan sharking, illegal gambling, and bookmaking in Queens, Brooklyn, faced charges related to the killing of an undercover NYPD detective in 1986, but was acquitted. He collaborated with soldier Ernest Jr. Varacalli in a car theft ring in 2001. Giovanelli passed away on January 19, 2018, at the age of 84. Joseph N. Pepe La Scala, a former New Jersey capo operating in Hudson County waterfront cities like Bayonne and Jersey City, served as Angelo Prisco's acting capo before leading the crew. In May 2012, La Scala and members of his crew faced charges related to illegal gambling in Bayonne. He passed away on February 3, 2019, at the age of 87. Rosario Sado Mogavero, a formidable figure, became a hitman at the age of 15 and later rose to the position of a powerful capo and close ally of Vito Genovese. Mogavero held the role of vice president of the International Longshoremen's Association until his arrest in 1953 for extortion and drug dealing. During the 1950s and 1960s, he controlled gambling, loan sharking, and drug smuggling along the Lower East Side of Manhattan waterfront, collaborating with individuals like Tommy Ryan Eboli, Michael Clemente, and Carmine the Snake Persico. Arthur Artie Nigro, a former member who served as the family's street boss from 2002 to 2006, was sentenced to life in prison in 2011 for ordering the 2003 murder of Adolfo Bruno. Nigro passed away on April 24, 2019, at the age of 74. Perrone, a former capo, was promoted to captain in 1998, taking over Matthew Ianiello's old crew. In July 2005, Perrone, along with Ianiello and other members of his crew, was indicted on charges including extortion, loan sharking, labor racketeering, and illegal gambling. In 2008, he was sentenced to 5 years for racketeering and loan sharking. Running his crew from a social club and Don Pepe's restaurant in Ozone Park, Queens, Perrone lost his retrial in 2009 and received an additional 5-year sentence. He was released from prison on October 14, 2011. Perrone passed away in 2011. John Zacchi Savino, born in 1898 in Bari, southern Italy, immigrated to the United States in 1912 and settled in Upper Manhattan, Harlem. He later moved to the Bronx area and reportedly served under Genovese capo Jimmy Angelina. Savino passed away in the late 1970s or 1980s. Frank Farby Serpico, born in 1916 in Corona, Queens, was a member of the 116th Street crew of the Genovese family. He was promoted to acting boss or street boss by Vincent Gigante from 1998 to 2001. Serpico passed away in 2002. Charles Chucky Tuzzo, a capo operating in New Jersey, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, faced legal troubles, including an indictment in 2002 for infiltrating the International Longshoremen's Association, ILA. Released in 2006, he later faced charges in 2014 for loan sharking, gambling, and money laundering. Chucky Tuzzo passed away in July 2020. Eugene Charles Ubriaco, a member of the Morello family, faced legal issues and was arrested in June 1915 for carrying a revolver. Tragically, on September 7, 1916, Ubriaco and Nicholas Morello were shot to death on Johnson Street in Brooklyn after a meeting with the Navy Street Gang. Joseph Zito, a soldier in the Manhattan faction, the West Side Crew, was involved in bookmaking and loan sharking. While law enforcement labeled Zito as acting underboss from 1997 through 2003, he likely served as a top lieutenant under the official underboss, Venero Mangano. Zito played a role in relaying messages from Mangano to the rest of the family leadership. Unfortunately, Joseph Zito passed away on April 7, 2020, at the age of 83. Government informats and witnesses. Joseph Joe Cargo Valachi played a significant role in exposing the inner workings of the American Mafia in 1963. He had been active since the Castellamarese War in the early 1930s, initially associated with the Lucchese crime family. However, after Salvatore Maranzano's murder in 1931, Valachi joined the Genovese family. Operating as a soldier in the crew of Anthony Strollo, Valachi faced legal troubles and, fearing retribution from Genovese, testified before the United States Senate Committee in 1963. He passed away in 1971 due to a heart attack while imprisoned at FCI La Tuna. Vincent Fish Cafaro, a former capo and close associate of Tony Salerno, was involved in heroin dealing before joining the Genovese family. Inducted into the family in 1974, he operated under Salerno in East Harlem and gained influence within the NYC District Council of Carpenters. Alongside Genovese and Gambino members, Cafaro received kickback payments. After wearing a wire for the FBI and testifying against John Gotti in 1990, he played a crucial role in exposing criminal activities. George Barone, a former soldier and alleged founding member of the real-life Jets street gang, played a significant role in the Genovese family's control over waterfront territories. Sentenced to 15 years in 1979 for racketeering, he served 7 years and later cooperated with authorities in 2001, testifying against fellow mob members, including Gambino captain Anthony Ciccone in 2003. Barone, who participated in nearly 20 murders, passed away in December 2010 at the age of 86. Louis Moscatiello Sr., a former acting capo and soldier in the Bronx, played a role in the Genovese family's involvement in the drywall and construction industry. Convicted in 1991 for bribing a labor official, he later cooperated with the government, intending to testify against Joseph Olivieri. However, Moscatiello passed away in February 2009. John J.B. Bologna, a former associate involved in the Springfield, Massachusetts area and associated with Genovese capo Adolfo Bruno, began cooperating with the FBI in 1996. Despite facing charges such as murder conspiracy, illegal gambling, extortion, and racketeering, Bologna was sentenced to 8 years in prison. He passed away in prison on January 17, 2017. Michael Cookie Durso, a former associate involved in loan sharking, fraud, and murder, played a crucial role as an informant. Wearing a recording wire from 1998 to 2001, he contributed to over 70 convictions, including those related to the 1996 murder of John Borelli. In March 2007, Durso was sentenced to 5 years probation and a $200 fine for his involvement in the murder. He reportedly began cooperating with authorities after a shooting incident involving him and the death of his cousin Tino Lombardi. Rinaldi Ruggiero, a former captain who led the South Florida crew, faced legal troubles in 2006, arrested for extortion, armed robbery, and money laundering. Ruggiero, involved in violent activities, cooperated with the government in February 2007, admitting his Genovese family ties. In February 2012, he received a 14-year prison sentence, with prosecutors recommending a reduced term due to his cooperation, ultimately accepted by the judge. Felix Tranghese, a former capo and soldier, faced legal issues after cooperating with the government in 2010. Tranghese revealed involvement in delivering a murder contract message to the crew of Adolfo Bruno, and admitted to carrying out extortion and shootings for former Genovese street boss Arthur Nigro. He later testified in 2 murder trials in New York in 2011 and 2012, alongside Anthony Arilotta. Anthony Bingi Arilotta a former soldier, turned government witness in 2010 along with Felix Tranghese. Arilotta admitted to involvement in the 2003 murders of Capo Adolfo Bruno and Gary Westerman, his brother-in-law. He also pleaded guilty to the attempted murder of a New York union boss in the same year. Arilotta and Tranghese were both sentenced to 4 years imprisonment and had relocated to Springfield after their release. Anthony Zoccalillo, a former associate of the Genovese and Bonanno families, was arrested in 2013 on charges of running an illegal gambling scheme and distributing marijuana and oxycodone. He pleaded guilty and testified against Salvatore, Sally K.O., Larca, a member of Ernest Muscarella's crew. Anthony Tony Lodi Cardinal, a former associate, was involved in a crackdown over commercial waste hauling in New York and New Jersey in 2013. He pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy to commit extortion, admitting his role in a plot to shake down a cooperating witness who owned a waste hauling company. In popular culture, the Genovese crime family has been a prominent subject in Hollywood, often portrayed in films and television shows exploring organized crime. This portrayal has contributed to the fascination with the family's history and activities. Television. Godfather of Harlem is a television series that premiered in 2019. It follows the story of Bumpy Johnson, a real-life figure associated with the Genovese crime family during the 1960s in Harlem. The series delves into the intersection of organized crime, politics, and civil rights during that era. Film. Mobsters is a 1991 crime film that explores the rise of infamous American gangsters, including Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, and Bugsy Siegel. These historical figures played significant roles in the American Mafia and were associated with various crime families, including the Genovese crime family. The film portrays their criminal activities and the formation of organized crime in the United States during the Prohibition era,